Nashville.
World War II epic Saving Private Ryan.
Mob movies get lampooned in the new comedy Mafia.
And Dennis Quaid and Natasha Richardson rekindle their romance in a 90s version of The Parent Trap.
Someone who speaks French and German.
Yes, sir.
My two guys were killed.
Yes, sir. It's just that I haven't held a weapon since basic training, sir.
Did you fire the weapon in basic training?
Tom Hanks heads an infantry squad whose mission is Saving Private Ryan, and that's the name of Steven Spielberg's latest film, one of the big summer movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert, along with The Parent Trap. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. Steven Spielberg's stated goal in making Saving Private Ryan is, in part, to accurately reflect the horror of the D-Day landing when so many Allied soldiers were sitting ducks for German firepower atop Normandy beachheads. On that score, the first 25 minutes of Saving Private Ryan is a flat-out triumph, with director Spielberg himself at times carrying his own handheld camera into the restaged action. The title of the film refers to the mission of Captain John Miller, played by Tom Hanks. His squad's orders: locate an American soldier named Ryan, whose 3 brothers already have been killed in action. The Army High Command's intention is to try to save his mother even more grief. But Spielberg frames the quest not simply as an act of heroism, like you might expect in most World War II films. Rather, the script challenges the wisdom of this mission here through the words of a sergeant played by Tom Sizemore.
Well, what about the company?
We take the pick of the litter and the rest get folded into Baker.
They took away your company?
It wasn't my company. It was the Army, so they told me anyway.
Also challenged are other traditional gung-ho war cliches, as expressed by a GI played by Edward Burns.
You want to explain the math of this to me? I mean, where's the sense of risking the lives of the 8 of us to save one guy?
Contemplating the heavy issues of war, a soldier with a literary bent played by Jeremy Davies.
Corporal, what's your book about? Hey, what's your rifle?
Actually, it's supposed to be about the bond of brotherhood that developed between soldiers during war.
Brotherhood? What do you know about brotherhood? Get a load of this guy, fish.
For Saving Private Ryan, Steven Spielberg has attempted something difficult: making an anti-war film. I was once told by no less a critic and filmmaker than Francois Truffaut that such a thing would be very hard to do because movies, he said, glamorize everything they show. Well, Spielberg has triumphed. Saving Private Ryan is an open-eyed look at war, its terror, and its moral conflicts. The film also is technically a superb piece of filmmaking by Spielberg, who reminds us that he's still a great director, when so many people, I think, just think of him as some kind of major impresario.
Well, he certainly has achieved the challenge, in a way, that Truffaut set for a whole generation of filmmakers. And like All Quiet on the Western Front, this film does show you a war that you don't want to be a part of, and it gives you a new respect and a new admiration for the brave people who went through that experience, because it wasn't lots of fun with John Wayne saying, "Follow me, men." It was just standing there and trying to stay alive and do your duty.
And the colorful crew that, you know, you would want to be part of, like some sort of baseball team.
Yeah, I like the fact that Tom Hanks' squad is not made into zany characters, that many of them are played pretty close to the bone as ordinary people, and that's very effective, I think.
Yeah, ordinary thinking people.
Absolutely. You know, Gene, one of the things I admired most about the movie was the way Spielberg buries his philosophy in action. The movie has a lot of ideas, but it finds ways to embody them in the story instead of talking about them. Here are a couple of scenes that illustrate that. Early in the mission, they come upon civilians who are still absorbing the shock of the recent bombing of their home. They think their child will be safer with the Americans. Listen to Hanks's comment.
I can't. She reminds me of my niece, sir. Kaporzov, get the kid back up there. Captain, the decent thing to do is to at least take her down the road to the next town.
We're not here to do the decent thing. We're here to follow orders.
pretty hard-boiled. And here's a scene that's a reminder that the Tom Hanks character is not an action hero, but an ordinary man who wonders sometimes if the war experience has changed him in fundamental ways.
I don't know anything about Ryan. I don't care. Man means nothing to me. It's just a name. But if, you know, if going to Ramel and finding him so he can go home, if that earns me the right to get back to my wife, well, then that's my mission.
For me, the movie reveals what war is really about, and it's brutal. The first 25 minutes in particular really deserve the R rating. This is not a movie for younger children, for sure. War is about thinking that something is important enough to kill for, and even important enough to justify turning yourself into a killer. Something that doesn't come easy to the people in this movie, or to most of us, I'm sure. In traditional Hollywood war movies, nobody ever really seems to understand what it means to pull the trigger, to decide that you have the right to take another man's life. In Saving Private Ryan, the soldiers take that responsibility seriously. The public relations mission they're sent on is essentially a lie about their own hard experience, and realizing that is the heart of the movie.
Well, I'm so impressed that we are talking about ideas.
Yes.
In a war film. I mean, you know, the other great filmmaker who did the last war film was Stanley Kubrick. Full Metal Jacket.
Well, of course, Oliver Stone with Platoon also. And Stone's film, which is about a different kind of war on a different scale, I think has the same truth that this one does.
Yeah, but we're putting it in very good company.
Yes, we are.
And again, I'm glad you stressed the intensity of that action. I can also stress the artistry of those first 25 minutes. Color desaturated, reminiscent of Life magazine war photographs. Makes us somehow, by not having the blood there, by taking that out, technically, makes the ideas come forward in a way. We're not distracted.
Right. And he cuts out frames sometimes. He doesn't cut through smooth actions you can't understand. It's all chaos, which I think is...
Yes. You know, I was in basic training. I identified with the situation. Would I go forward? Would I have the guts, or how would I react?
Well, I think I'd be very scared, and I think most people would be more like Jeremy Davies than they would be like John Wayne.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Coming up later in the show, the gangster spoof Mafia.
How bad is it? You lost a lot of blood, but we found most of it.
Oh. Coming up next, 2 is twice as nice as 1 in the remake of The Parent Trap.
That's my mom. That's my dad. And you and I are like sisters.
Hello? What's up? Hal, I'm desperate. Dad's getting married. What do you mean getting married? I mean black tie, white gown, the whole enchilada.
The original Parent Trap came out in 1961 and starred Haley Mills, and may not have been a cinematic masterpiece, but became one of those movies that just about everyone seemed to have seen and enjoyed. Now it's been remade, and even though I knew more or less everything that was going to happen in this movie, I have to say I really enjoyed it. This new version has the same appeal as the old one and the same fun with the double deception in the plot. The story, of course, involves twin sisters who meet for the first time at summer camp. When their parents were divorced, one was raised in England, the other in California, and they discover the truth by accident. Both twins are played by Lindsay Lohan in a flawless performance that includes 2 effortless accents.
So if your mom is my mom, and my dad is your dad, and we're both born on October 11, then you and I are like sisters. Sisters. Hallie, we're like twins.
A whole bag of tricks is used to make it appear like there are 2 girls when there is, in fact, only one, but the tricks are seamless, and there was never a moment when I doubted the illusion.
I'll go back to London as you, and you go back to California as me. If we switch, they'll have to unstitch us, and when they do, they'll have to meet again, face to face. Honey, you never looked better.
The girls' parents are very well played in the movie, not just as stooges of the plot, but as colorful characters in their own right. Dennis Quaid plays the father, who is engaged to be married to a hateful schemer played with delightful malice by Elaine Hendricks.
This is the real deal, honey, and nothing you do is going to come between us. Hate to break it to you, Angel, but you are no longer the only girl in Nick Parker's life. Get over it.
And Natasha Richardson, looking very chic here, is the mother, a London fashion designer with real charm. What surprised me was how real the chemistry was between the 2 parents, who, of course, are manipulated by their daughters into falling in love once again.
You know, sometime if we're ever really alone, maybe we could talk about what happened between us. It all feels a bit hazy to me now. It ended so fast.
It started so fast.
Well, that part I remember perfectly.
This new version of The Parent Trap was directed and produced and co-written by the team of Nancy Myers and Charles Shire, whose credits include Father of the Bride and Baby Boom. And here they take what looks like a formula retread and bring it to life again with bright dialogue and, it must be said, perfect casting, right down to Simon Kuntz and Lisa Ann Walter, who play Richardson's butler and Quaid's housekeeper. They're charming together and very funny together. This is not a deep movie. It's on the other end of the universe from Saving Private Ryan, but it's charming and good-hearted, and I smiled all the way through it.
I did too, Roger. First of all, she's a wonderful young actress.
And didn't you love the love story between Natasha Richardson and Dennis Quaid? It really worked on its own.
Yes, but you use a key phrase. They're not stooges. In other words, in a picture where they're being duped, they're not dupes. It's very well done, very entertaining. A commercially produced thing using classic songs to lift the action. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Using sets that look like Hollywood movies from 30 years ago.
Also, the situations of children's fantasies about glamorous places, you know, rich
getting to go live
lifestyle.
in California,
exactly.
Getting to live in London.
This is a very fine job.
Okay, coming up next from the maker of Airplane and The Naked Gun, now comes the spoof Mafia.
Anthony, they're criminals.
I love my Rosa as much today as I did the first time I forced myself on her. But how about this one here? Breasts like cabbages.
The late Lloyd Bridges gives a toast in a parody of the famous wedding scene in The Godfather, which, along with Martin Scorsese's Casino, is the latest subject of parody in the new comedy Mafia, directed and co-written by Jim Abrahams. Abrahams was part of the creative team behind Airplane, the parody that kicked off this genre way back in 1980. But Mafia is not in the same class as his earlier work. It doesn't have as many laughs. For example, here the Michael Corleone character prepares for his hit on a crooked cop. But as I watched this scene in Mafia, it just made me admire the original scene in The Godfather.
Egidio Cabanetto, posso?
For example, I noticed how Jay Moore, playing the Michael Corleone character, did not do what Al Pacino did after he shoots the cop. As he walks out of the restaurant, Pacino flips the gun out of his hand as if it were boiling hot. And when it comes to parodying another gangland movie, Martin Scorsese's Casino, Mafia doesn't have a clue. Instead of taking on, say, the famous documentary sequence showing how the mob skim money from the back cash cage, Mafia only offers slapstick humor.
She had everything a man could want. Beauty, brains, and class. What a dismount. I fell in love right there.
Now, I don't know what's going on there. Is that some kind of riff on the pole dancing sequence in Showgirls? I think the time for mobster parodies may have long since passed. Certainly for a movie about killers, Mafia doesn't hit any of its targets.
Oh, it hits some of the targets. I like the opening title, which makes fun of Robert De Niro getting blown up in his Cadillac, and I love the
but it's so predictable.
The cattle prod scene, and I also love some of the games they play in the casino. For example,
that was funny. Oh, yeah.
Guess the number, and the guy puts his money forward. He says 2, and the dealer says, "I'm sorry, sir. I was thinking of 3."
Well,
there are some laughs in this movie.
Yeah.
Not enough to recommend it, but it is fun.
Oh no, the game I liked was when they were playing. The dealer was playing hooks and ladders.
Yeah, well, that was yeah. There are some laughs in it, and
that one, just that one little chunk there, nothing much.
You know what I think the problem is? One of the problems. This movie is coming out, has the great misfortune to come out a week after There's Something About Mary.
Oh, yeah.
And if you want to go to a comedy, that's the one to see.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, there was one cute sign, now that I think of it. in front of the casino. Welcome, compulsive gamblers.
Yeah, well, I like it when he tips the doorman. Keep the car. Okay, when we come back, a sinister cult has a surprising effect on high school students in disturbing behavior. Our next movie is a teenage horror film named Disturbing Behavior, with a plot that's the opposite of what you might expect. A sinister cult is taking over the high school, but instead of turning good kids into bad ones, it turns rebels into conformists. Only one unaffected student seems to realize what's happening. He's played by Nick Stahl, and he tries to warn newcomer James Marsden and local sex pot Katie Holmes.
No, it is not bull. It's not steroids.
Here we go.
What?
Gavin thinks some sinister force is taking over the Cradle Bay meatheads.
Oh, you know what it is. You know. A sinister force?
You know, evil.
He's right, and he's the next victim. After a sinister surgical procedure, the high school misfit returns as a clean, living zombie. He's such a straight arrow, you can hardly recognize him.
Gavin.
Hello, Rachel.
What is up with this?
I just want to apply myself. I think I'll get better results on this side of the calf.
Gavin.
Why don't you beat it, honey? This is rarefied turf. Just lets me not apply.
Meanwhile, at home, the hero is approached by his kid sister's tutor, who wants to seduce him into joining the weird in-group. It looks like her programming has developed a little bug here.
What? Wait a second.
I know I'm not supposed to be doing this. It's bad. Wrong. Bad.
Oh, it's not bad.
Disturbing Behavior has been described as sort of a high school version of the Stepford Wives, but it's not nearly as satisfying. The elements are in place, but the characters are not sharply drawn, and the story seems like a foregone conclusion. There's no real suspense here and no scary moments, and the scene that I liked the best was actually the one where Nick Stahl sits in the lunchroom and briefs the newcomer on all the different cliques in the high school. That didn't involve horror, just humor and some good writing.
You're right. The characters, the idea is terrific. I mean, to go the other way and have them become straight. But while they're twisted, before they go, they're not interesting at all. I mean,
and they're not much of a threat after they change. And as for the janitor down in the basement, I mean, what a surprise that was, huh?
Okay.
Yeah. Not to give it away, but...
Doesn't quite work. When we come back, our video pick of the week, a classic horror movie that does have plenty of frightening moments.
Siskel and Ebert's Video Pick of the Week is brought to you by Nestle Raisinets. At the movies or at home, Raisinets.
My video pick this week is a beautifully transferred DVD version of Psycho, the 1961 Alfred Hitchcock classic that's considered one of his 2 or 3 greatest films. It starred Anthony Perkins, of course, as the proprietor of the Bates Motel, and Janet Leigh as the guest who steps into the shower and into one of the most famous scenes ever filmed. This is a disc that includes a lot of extras, including a close look at the shower scene.
But Hitch had very strong ideas about that scene. So at that point, Saul Bass came in and did a storyboard on it.
And there's Hitchcock's famous coming attractions trailer where he takes the audience on a tour of his set.
Well, they cleaned all this up, you know. Big difference. You should have seen the blood. The whole place was, well, it's too horrible to describe. Dreadful.
And the 90-minute documentary about the making of Psycho.
The problem was what to wear so that it looked like I was nude. I mean, that was the biggest problem of all. Rita Riggs, the wardrobe girl, and I pored over these strip teaser magazines that showed all the different costumes, but none of them worked because they all had whirly jigs on them or something.
The timing for this DVD release couldn't be better because for reasons that remain completely inexplicable to me, director Gus Van Sant is doing not a remake, but a recreation of Psycho based on the original script. If there was ever a film crying out not to be made, this is that film. No need to have this remake. It's available, by the way, on DVD, laser, and VHS in video stores right now.
We've said it before. Remake flawed films.
Yes.
Don't remake...
Or remake trivial films. Remake nice little films.
Yeah.
Don't remake masterpieces. If it works, don't fix it.
You got it.
Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed this week. Two thumbs way up for Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan, one of the most powerful war movies we've seen, with thoughtfulness framing the action. Two more delighted thumbs up for The Parent Trap, a charming and entertaining remake with surprising romantic chemistry between Dennis Quaid and Natasha Richardson. It opens next week. Two thumbs down for Mafia, the gangster movie spoof, which has some good laughs, but not enough of them. And two thumbs down for Disturbing Behavior, the high school horror movie that didn't crank up the horror or contain many surprises.
Remember, you can hear our reviews on the web at Siskel-Ebert.com. Next week, we'll be back with reviews of more new movies, including the hostage thriller, The Negotiator, starring Samuel L. Jackson and Kevin Spacey.
Make me believe why I should deal with you ever again. They want me dead.
And also, Ever After, a remake of Cinderella starring Drew Barrymore.
What have we here?
That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.